I can't believe what we just saw.
For Three Wide Racing League, they've had a couple weeks off after we last saw these guys at Montreal. This week, we're going to head to Charlotte Motor Speedway to continue the championship, round number 12, as we head towards the chase. This is the final race to get yourself in the top 10 in points and have a shot at the season-end championship. Welcome to SimTV. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Finian DeCuna as we tackle the old Charlotte Finian. This is a little ways back in time in the iRacing service here. You might as well think this was back in 2007 or 2008 with the car and track we're driving tonight, but things are very different now than they were then. Day-to-night transitions as we go into the darkness here in Charlotte and we get qualifying underway.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to this event playing out, especially with a bunch of patriotic schemes with the guys tonight. Obviously, it's not Memorial Day weekend. That was last week, but these guys still showing their patriotic spirit tonight.
So with qualifying underway, we'll head down to the racetrack and figure out who's running what tonight. And we got a lot of patriotic schemes. As you mentioned, we'll head down there now and have a look at Nick Boyd. Is not one of those cars, but we know a few that are, and one of them I noticed earlier was the 00 of Corey Lindsay, the Puma sponsored car, and boy, this is probably one of my favorites out here tonight, Finian. It's got the Puma stripes with the red, white, and blue. It looks amazing out there in the Chevy Monte Carlo red, white, and blue color. So Corey Lindsay comes out of turn number 4 across the start-finish line. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, the fastest lap that each driver has run in qualifying is, looks like 00 will go 9th quick with a 30.647 as his best lap. We have Chad Frankenfield here tonight in the number 15, but what's the points picture walking in here tonight, Finian? How are things shaping up for the chase?
Yeah, well, as far as the guys at the top of the standings, they're pretty much good. They don't really have to worry about a whole lot of things. So Grunberg, Cove, Endelicato, Kevin Finn, Chad Frankfield, and Jeffrey Fisher, they're all locked in. So those first 6 of 10 spots are already locked and ready to go for the playoffs. However, Richard Hines, James Miller, Drew Eisman, and Race Clark have yet to lock their positions, and they're still in the bubble. And the guys chasing their way in on the outside looking in is Goodman and Nathan Velez in the 48, even Tanner Sharp. And I'm actually, honestly, looking at this now, I'm quite surprised to see 3 Tanner Sharp back in 13th. So he's going to have to try to do a lot to race his way in tonight. We know that car is pretty fast.
Chad Franfield spun at the exit of turn 2 on his final lap out. There's Nathan Velez sitting on the pit lane here, Finian. With less than 2 minutes to go, you'd think if he wanted to put a qualifying lap in, he would be starting right now, but he has not moved. Is this a strategy to start from the back? We have a 167 lap race tonight. That's a pretty long event. Is there some strategy involved in starting out back?
I think there might be, maybe for guys, trying to make, take this a little bit more patiently and just kind of, how do you say, just kind of, manage the race, lap after lap, because this is a long race here tonight. This may be a chance for them, by starting the back, just kind of stay out some early trouble.
So with about 1 minute and 15 seconds left in qualifying, not a lot of drivers have taken qualifying times. 14 of our roughly 23 have come on through and made qualifying efforts. Sam Close, another one of those drivers that did not go out. Neither did Brandon Klusterhuis or Chad Frankfield. He did not record a lap. I think he dirtied both of them. Matt Grunberg, we've seen him start from the back. That's no big changes there. And he ready to go this evening. I forgot that I wasn't streaming, Finian. Sorry about that. So we gotta get rolling so you can see what's going on here as we got 45 seconds left. If you want to find out what's going on at home, you can head to the live timing and scoring page at simtvbroadcasting.com/timing to follow along in real time with a timing and scoring page. So and 167 laps here tonight. We'll take a look at the weather information, Finian. 73 degrees in the air, 76 on the racetrack. 50% humidity, and it's sunny out. The sun is dipped below the horizon, so a beautiful evening here in Concord, North Carolina, as we get ready for our 12th round of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is a very important one with it being the final race of the regular season. Last chance for guys to try to get themselves in the playoffs. And this can go either way. The guys that are currently in, they could have their spot secure, but they also very easily lose it if they have a poor night.
So qualifying is complete. It'll be James Miller at the top of the board with a 30.224 as the pole winning time. So he will start on the front row this evening for a 167 lap race. Time to go racing here tonight. Nick Endelicato in the 51. He's won a handful of races this season. He's got a red, white, and blue paint scheme on the side of his car as well. The 09. Miller also has some red, white, and blue on that car right around the trim pieces there. Michael Goodman in the 44, running a camouflage paint scheme. car out here that I saw that I can't remember exactly who it was. I was trying to maybe take a look and see if it was Hackathorn. Yes, it was. He typically runs a lot of red, white, and blue, but he'll be continuing running that scheme here this evening.
Yeah, I think added the stars on the blue part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right about that. But, all right, let's take a look at our starting grid here tonight, Finian. Sorry, I was just answering an important text message there. So get back to work, Kyle. I can't fire myself, though. So we'll get started here. On the front row this evening, it's going to be James Miller in the number 09, right alongside Nick Indelicato in the number 51 Toyota Camry.
Yeah, moving on back into row number 2, it's going to be Nick Boyd in the 74 lining up in third. Next to him, Carlos Acosta going to line up in fourth.
In fifth place on the inside of the row number 3, it'll be Kevin Finn in the number 14 and Drew Eisenman on the outside of row 3 in the number 77 Eisen Designs car.
Yeah, moving on back in seventh place, you find Tanner Sharp in the 3 car on the inside. Next to him, Michael Goodman going to line up on the outside of the 44.
22 of Race Clark starts in 9th, and Matt Hackathorn's number 84. He starts 10th tonight.
Back in 11th place is going to be Dustin Dewar in the 32 machine. Next to him is going to line up the 10 of Alex Boyd in 12th.
Rory Lindsay starts 13th in the 00, and Justin Kolb in the 52 rolls off 14th in row number 7.
And moving on back to the guys who did not put down a qualifying lap, it's going to be Matt Grunberg in 54. Obviously, as normal, starting in the back. Next to him, Chad Frankfield in the 15.
Sam Close starts in 17th in the number 5. Jeffrey Fisher in 18th in the 06.
In 19th, you find Nathan Velez in the 48 on the inside. Next to him in the 87 is going to be Richard Hines in 20th. In
21st, Brandon Klusterhuis in the 94. Frank Sims in 22nd in the number 75.
And rounding out your field of 23 is going to be Brent Miller in the 89 car.
Well, that is your field here tonight. 167 laps as we head onto the back straightaway here, Finian. Some information to go over. We talked about this the last time, but Charlotte Motor Speedway, one of the oldest tracks in NASCAR, constructed in 1960. The local population of Concord, North Carolina has about 80,000 people. So the metro area of Concord and Charlotte, pretty large in itself. And of course, this racetrack at one time had the largest TV screen in the world, only superseded by Texas Motor Speedways in recent years as well. So we'll head over to front straightaway and get this race started. 167 laps, round number 12, the final race of the regular season of the 3-Wide Racing League Grand National Division. Field comes out of turn number 4. A long night of racing, patriotic schemes on the cars. Green flag flies racing from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Side by side for the race lead, Indelicato's pulled even with James Miller on the back straightaway. Off into turn 3 here, Finney to battle for the race lead. Indelicato just clears the 09 of Miller down into... Oh, he gets turned! The leaders spin in turn 3! They get clobbered, it's a huge pileup! The 74 goes up on top of the 2 car, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 cars involved as they all wad up at the exit of 4.
Wow, and it's the big one at Charlotte on lap 1. Wow.
That
was amazing. That was an amazing thing to witness right there.
That, holy cow.
And from the leaders, no less. That's the thing that's really rare to see the leaders wreck that early on.
Yeah, that was...
Maybe you'll see them wreck at the end of the race, but not at the beginning.
That was a huge incident. Let's go back and we got to dissect this for a little bit. It was the 51 of Indelicato that I think had tried to clear the 09 of Miller, and he was clear and was down in front of the 09, and Miller gets in, turns him around, and then the 74 of Boyd has nowhere to go. The 2 car up and underneath the 74 puts him in the fence. Then they slide back down the racetrack, and this is where the rest of the cars get involved. The 15 of Frankenfield, the 54 of Gruenberg gets up underneath the 74 as well. What a mess at the exit of 4.
Yeah, then coming off the banking to Costa ended up clipping Goodman. You'll see here in this race, you see the 74 just get airborne. And watching the 2, he collects some more victims as he comes down the track. Gets into Goodman right there, going to turn him easily into the wall. Also into Race Clark on the 22. And you see Frankenfield and even Gruenberg, major damage to his car in behind.
Let's ride on board full speed here with the 06 car of Jeffrey Fisher as he kind of drove into this mess from behind. That's pretty much everybody. I mean,
yo, honestly, half the field is almost pretty much junk.
Trying to go back and grab another image here. Wow, look at the impact for the 74 that he had. 22 of Race Clark gets turned around. Another look as the field came out of turn 4. There's the caution flag. Tanner Sharp pulls on through. The race leader was scored as Kevin Finn.
Yeah, and looking at pit road, it seems like we had only 14 cars in the field unscathed. The 22 guys that started this race. That means about 8 cars were involved in that, and all of the 8 were pretty significantly damaged. We got 1 green.
Well, lights are extinguished on the pace car, and that was a pretty quick cleanup, all things considered. 2 drivers out already on lap 1. Carlos Acosta, Brennan Klusterhuis, they will return to the pits and call their night over. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, there is your lineup. Chad Frankenfield is back out with that car repaired somewhat. They'll restart in 20th. Nick Indelicato is on pit lane. That car going to be pretty well torn up. We'll see if he gets a chance to return to the racetrack as we line up again to go for a restart. Not a way that you want to start such a long night, but I guess if you're going to have a wreck, you might as well do it on lap 1. You have enough time to repair your car and get back in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the mindset, especially for some of these guys. You know, looking at our really the top 5 where they started this race, even though we barely got a lap in. From 1st to 5th, they started 5th, 7th, 6th, 10th, and 11th. So they were able to gain quite a few spots. We'll see what our new leaders are able to do with it.
Field rolls out at turn number 4. The FR500 pace car going to make the hard left back to pit lane. It's Kevin Finn. Tanner Sharp. Finn chooses the bottom. Green flag back in the air. Racing again from Charlotte. That time Finn got a really good restart. A couple of cars leaving pit lane. Eisenman comes through to 2nd. He'll drop in behind the race leader. There's Corey Lindsay in the 00, right in front of Sam Close in the 5. And Close is another driver that we haven't really seen as much this season as we maybe expected here, but up to 7th so far, unscathed in that incident.
Yeah, and again, this is really, if you were able to get unscathed from that wreck, now it's your chance to really show what you're worth. You're able to gain quite a few spots, especially if you started in the back, and now you got some really solid track position to work with. And speaking of which, we're already starting to see some guys try to set up moves down to turn 1.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're interested in with this older version of this racetrack, Fade, is that how the grip level compares to the newer version of this track. I'm fairly certain this place is a little less grippy than it is now. At least that's the way it felt to me earlier. But Eisenman now has Tanner Sharp to deal with side by side in turn number 3, and you really see these cars move around quite a bit. Not as much downforce as the modern day Cup cars as the 77 and 3 battle for 2nd on the front straight.
Yeah, side by side for that 2nd spot. Kevin Finn trying to drive away from this, but Tanner Sharp trying to make the move to the inside lane. These guys side by side, and Eisenman keeping him tight on that inside to get a nice run here off of 2.
Really curious to see how the field spreads out and if they can get into a long green flag run, because there's going to be a lot of fuel strategy to play tonight. A lot of over-unders, a lot of tire wear I'm expecting to see, especially maybe some multi-groove racing even with this car, this tire, and this track. That's a good combination. We'll see if we can see maybe the upper grooves coming in. Eisenman's making it work right now in the 3 car.
Yeah, it really is. Those runs off the corner are not something to mess with, so we'll see if he's able to finally get the spot. But it seems, Sharp's going to gain in the corner. Eisenman gains in the straight. Neither driver's winning except for really Kevin Finn up front, who's pulling away.
And you see Sharp really struggling to keep it down against that white line. Going to run the 77 up the hill a little bit. That's actually going to help Eisenman slightly, and he will re-clear the 3 for the time being. Sharp got the very classy Thank You Heroes car, the National Guard most of the scheme, but the rear bumper is viewed from Matt Hagethorn. Got the nurses and doctors on it. Very classy scheme on the 3 car of Tanner Sharp. Hagethorn in this number 84. He started in 10th. He's gained 6 spots, made it through the incident, up inside the top 5.
See if he can try to get past Tanner Sharp as he's kind of closed in to the 2 up ahead. And even Sharp, for that matter, has not lost sight of Eisenman. Is just really just trying to maybe eye up a pass on the 77 again.
Again, I don't think that was the time to fight your battles here. I think you're going to, see what you got, and then I get in line and kind of run some laps, figure out what your car's doing, how you need to adjust your line over the course of this race. The track's still really green, doesn't have a lot of rubber on it. I don't really see fighting doing you a whole lot of good right now. So Eisman and Sharp kind of got to sort this out, but neither one wants to lift right now.
I guess this is showing that Tanner Sharp feels that he is faster than the 77 to potentially try to get back up to Kevin Finn. We'll see if he's able to do so, but last attempt was not successful getting by the 77. We'll see if this time is a little bit more fruitful.
Well, think back to the very beginning of the season at Daytona Speedway when Tanner Sharp was arguably the dominant car there, didn't end up winning that race, then went to Auto Club and immediately had issues with his teammate in the early laps of that race, had to fight back and still didn't manage to win it, even though he was probably the best car there. Sharp has been such a good driver all season, but it's been hard to find victory lane for this three-car, Finian. So as he works over the 77, I think there's still some unfinished business for him in that Chevrolet.
And I mean, for Sharp, it just hasn't really been that good of a season. He's only had 1 top 5 and 2 top 10, so...
And it hasn't been for lack of pace. He's been fast every week. It's just bad luck, and then maybe bad strategy on some other days, but it really has not worked out for him.
Yeah, this could be a chance to redeem himself, and he could find himself put back in the points. Not entirely sure how it's going to be looking after that caution, but if he can finish well, he could find himself getting back in the playoff picture in the last round.
A little bit of a scuffle back here. Alex Boyd a little high. There's Richard Hines in the 87. James Miller and Brent Miller following each other. And James Miller in the 09, remember, he started this race right from the pole position, immediately went down to turn 3, had contact with the 51. They spun, had big crash, but Miller's got that car mostly repaired, now just has to make up all that track position he lost.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough thing to do. I think, looking at that car, for the most part, was able to avoid quite a bit of damage, but an EOL from causing that wreck put him in the back of the field, so now it's just a matter of making up from the damage.
And behind him you see Richard Hines, and Hines has actually been on, I don't really want to call it a hot streak, but he's definitely been improving the latter half of this season. You see him running up to the back of the 09, maybe size him up for a pass here. I'm interested in watching the racing line because it doesn't really look very rubbered in. I wonder if we'll see drivers drift up throughout this run, or if it's going to take almost to the end of the race before we see the outside really have any sort of grip that's usable.
Yeah, well, looking at the moment, around a quarter of the way through the run, although there was that caution flag, so you guys a bit of a grain of salt with that, but you can go about 60 to 65 laps on fuel. Whoa! As Miller gets tight on, Brent Miller gets tight on James Miller, almost puts him in the wall, and Hines has a look to the inside, going to back off.
In a tense moment there as James Miller goes around the outside, and Brent Miller moves James up to 11th. Back to 3rd place because now Eisenman has his hands full with Hackathorn. Hackathorn goes high, and Dustin Dewar in the 32. He drops to the bottom of the racetrack in the very patriotic red, white, and blue. I believe he's running a Pontiac Grand Prix in that number 32 car. Right in line with the 84. Bit of a side draft there, and he'll go right on by.
Yeah, interesting thing too, especially considering that's supposed to be addressed in the update to have more of an effect. But you see the 32 trying to work the inside. It can't quite get it done. Hackathorn gets a great run off of turn 4.
Still side by side for making 4th place now. Kevin Finn last time by ran a 30.747, 2 thousandths slower than Tanner Sharp. So Sharp is eating into that lead. You see now it's 0.8 of a second. It was over a second a few laps ago. So we're going to continue to watch that time drop as he closes in. Corey Lindsay in the 00. Nathan Velez, Matt Grunberg, and Frank Sims running out the rest of your top 10. Sims having a pretty good start to the day.
Yeah, absolutely. He was moved all the way up inside the top 10 of the 75 machine. Started all the way back in 22nd, so really solid move forward for the 75. Let's see if we can stay here.
So getting settled into a long run now. We had that big caution. I think that kind of got everyone's nerves out of the way because they had a second to kind of calm down and go, okay, we need to work together for 166 more laps. So they've done that with what it looks like, but we've seen these races go very, very green. Think back to Texas Motor Speedway earlier in the season. That race almost went, I think it almost did go flag to flag at that race, and we just saw a lot of single file racing once we got under green flag conditions. I expect to see something similar today where we'll see some battles maybe 15, 20 laps after a restart, and then we'll just run green for the rest of that 60 lap run that you were talking about earlier.
As you see, the battle between Hackathorn and Dewar is going to subside as Hackathorn takes a spot on the outside lane. Now trying to set his sights on Eisman. It looks like Eisman's kind of holding up a bit of a train of cars in behind him. We saw Sharp get past and break away. Here you see if any of the other guys in behind are able to do something, especially even Sam Close we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, Sam Close again. The last time that I really remember Sam Close being uber competitive was back in the Truck Series a couple of years ago. It really has not been the greatest period of time for this number 5 car, trying to find some pace.
He had some good success earlier on in the season, 4th and 3rd the doubleheader at Lime Rock, and then 6th at Bristol. Ever since then, it's been outside of the top 15 for this 5 machine.
Well, Frank Sims had a good start to the night. He sits back in 13th right now. He's just lost 3 spots, 1 to Hines, 1 to Miller, and 1 to the other Miller. That's James up there in 10th as he rides side by side Miller and the 87 of Hines. That is a battle for 11th. And now Race Clark is to the rear quarter panel of the 75. They'll run down the backstretch, and in behind them is Jeffrey Fisher in the 06.
And Clark getting really friendly with the quarter panel. The 75 almost got into him there again. Going to force Frank Sims up the track, and here comes Clark up the inside off 4.
Off into turn 1, 22 laps into this 167-lap race. Frank Sims way out of the groove there, no grip there just yet. At the front of the field, Kevin Finn continues the lead. He's actually extended that lead back out, but Eisenman still holding back a train of cars. Hackathorn, Dewar, Close, and Velez is actually starting to work his way into this group as well. Was quicker than everybody except for the race leader. Last time by, whoa, big slide for the 77 in turn number 4. Now he's got 2 drivers looking left and looking right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Iceman just got loose on the straightaway, which is something you don't see too often. But here comes the 32 of Dura up the inside. Close behind, going to be side by side with Hackathorn. And this 5's got to run enough to make a move to the inside of Dura, but no, he's going to back off and be a little bit more patient here.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really think there's a lot to be gained by fighting this hard early in the race. You're really just trying to discover what your tire wear is going to be on a normal green flag run. When you're fighting this much, you're burning up tires, you're burning up a lot of fuel, but these guys feel like they can grab some track position, so you might as well go for it. You're not going to be able to tell a race car driver to calm down, so they probably won't, as we have a 5-way battle for 3rd spot right now.
You're going to work on past Eisenman. Nope, not able to clear Eisenman with a decent run off the corner. Going to be side by side with Dura off into turn 3. See, as he tries to pinch down that 32, and this is where you got to be careful. Oh, he tries to pinch down, but he gets really tight in the middle corner. Got to back off, and he's going to lose 1, 2, maybe 3 spots.
Yeah. Maybe 4. Now all the momentum gone in a flash, and that's the cost of running high here without that outside groove rubbered in just yet. As soon as you get knocked up into marbles into the gray area, you're going to go very far backwards, and Eisenman really couldn't get that car rotated in. It also depends on how much rotation you have built into the setup. Of course, a fixed setup in this series, but if you're struggling with rotation, running up higher is not really going to help you very much, because at least on the bottom you can kind of hook that white line to help the car rotate, and if you're up high, you have nothing but the wall to keep you in bounds.
Yeah, I don't know what it is really. It feels like more so on this version of Charlotte than the newer one. Just turn 4 seems to be quite a bit of a hassle. You see Close get it into the back of Dewar there a little bit, 10 to 32, a bit loose, off into 1.
Accelerating out onto the back straightaway now for the 26th time. This race goes green from here to the end. It's an hour and 13 more minutes. That would put us about a quarter after 11 Eastern time. So joining us here for the long haul here tonight on Sim TV. We got lots. We had lots going on this past week. Not a lot going on this week, though. It's kind of a quiet week in Sim TV land. We'll be live tomorrow on the Grid Life YouTube channel with the Grid Life Mike's Hard Times Challenge. That will be from Sonoma, California at 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. Then Wednesday, Thursday, we are off Friday. We'll be back at the DC Region SCCA iRacing League GT3s as we got a battle for 3rd spot. This time it's Close to the bottom of the racetrack.
And Close really looking fast. They're going to get tight in the middle of the corner, though. You're going to be on the outside and going to be able to clear the 5 of Sam Close, so he's going to have to try again.
Use that slipstream on the front straightaway now, and the draft in this car is not incredibly strong, but it's enough to kind of keep you in touch here and deal with any aerodynamic effects you're feeling from the lead car. We'll see if Close can get a good run off the corner. And again, I'm not sure that we'll see the high line come in tonight in the way that you would see it maybe at a place like Darlington, obviously, but I do think that you'll be able to slightly change your line around between the bottom and the middle grooves and carry just enough more momentum. But these cars are low enough power, Finian, that I think your line, it doesn't need to be up against the wall or against the white line. Any slight variation between the bottom and the middle is going to be enough, because these cars are running fixed setups, running the same car, same track. I think we're going to see a little difference in line be a big difference in speed.
Yeah, I think really what we would consider the outside lane is pretty much going to be the middle lane. We saw Eisenman fighting with Sharp early on, was able to defend for a little bit on the relatively outside lane. They were side by side, so definitely doable to be up there when you're side by side with other cars. Speaking of which, Dewar got really high off in turn 4.
Race leader now 2.2 out in front of Tanner Sharp, working by some lap traffic. Michael Goodman car, the 44s, who he just got by, but here comes Close, a good run at the exit at turn 2. Got a pretty solid run off. He's not quite to the inside of Dewar's car into turn 3, but let's see if he can make a lunge. Dewar's going to leave him the space, and Close is going to fill the hole up the inside.
Yeah, he's going to try again off of turn 4, side by side for both these drivers, and they've been going at it for quite a few laps here, but you see the run that the 32 gets. Also in behind, another good battle going on. James Miller, Corey Lindsay, and Jeffrey Fisher. Three-way fight for that is 9th place.
Tanner Sharp had a really slow lap last time. That was a full second off, so he had a big mistake, and that's brought him right into the mix for second place battle now as Dewar and Close bring their cars up to the back of the 3. Into turns 3 and 4, real tight, only a couple feet between them, and now Hackathorn has re-caught this group. 4-way battle for second place now.
Yeah, looking at Sharp, what happened to me, he just hit the wall in the middle of the straightaway. It was kind of an embarrassing mistake for Sharp, but he lost so much time.
Why does it always happen at Charlotte? Everybody does that at Charlotte. I don't know what it is about this place, but every time, the only time I've ever seen people hit the wall in the straight is Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he just lost concentration for a second. Might have been looking at something else, at black boxes or some other information, and just drifted up into the wall. Speaking of drifting, whoa, Sam Close almost got into the 32.
That'll get your attention back pretty quick. It's smacking into the fence. As it looks like Dewar's going to chop down in front of the 5 car, maybe use the draft off the 3, but Sharp did lose some ground, but I think he's kind of got his legs back underneath him now. But not quite enough to run away from the charging 3rd place Dewar and 4th place Close. Again, this is the battle to the end here, Finian. So remind me what the chase situation is. Again, top 10 drivers in points move on to compete for a championship. Hold that thought. Oh, the 3 car lifts, slams the barrier in turn number 4, gets clobbered from behind, and spins across the racetrack. The caution is out, and the Tanner Sharp car is junked.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can say goodbye to his championship hopes right there. That's really unfortunate for the 3.
Well, that car is absolutely destroyed. He just kind of, I think he lifted really big in turn 3 and 4. I heard him get out of the throttle. And if we go back, I mean, it's going to be hard to tell. But the 32 just gets up underneath here and just gets up under him and just lifts up the rear tires and just goes. And oh, what a hit. And then Hackathorn got a big piece of that as well.
Yeah, good evasive action from everyone in behind, just cutting through the grass to avoid the 3 stranded on the front stretch. But yeah, this gets turned hard. You can try to fix that, but I think that car is definitely not going to drive the same.
Right. Let's ride on board again. We were on board with Dewar, but let's ride on board with Tanner Sharp. Yeah, it was just the slightest of lifts, and that's wow. That's all it took, though, is that one little hesitation. Here it is again, slow motion. The 32 is just up underneath the rear bumper, and it had his rear tires lifted. I think this destabilizes the car enough, and then right there he lifts. That's what gets him turned into the fence, and Hackathorn has nowhere to go, and right into the back bumper. You see the bumper cover flapping around. It's just not a hit that you want to take.
And Dewar getting a EOL penalty for causing that incident, so he's going to have to drop to the back.
That's not really surprising. Oh, man. Good thing he caught the safer barrier, though. That ends, and there's concrete there and about 20 feet after he hit. So at least got somewhat softer end of that as we head to pit lane here. Second caution of the night. Now I think everyone will come for tires and fuel, including our race leaders. So it looks like everyone's here.
Yeah, it looks like Nick Boyd stayed out, and that's to get a lap back. But as the field rolls off pit road, it's going to be Kevin Finn, who's been having a really good day in that 14 machine, pretty much untouched at the moment.
So Kevin Finn comes out on top out of the pit lane. Velez, Eisenman, Race Clark. Richard Hines, the 84 of Hackathorn, probably going to sit in pit lane and repair most of that damage. But we've seen this car actually repair pretty nicely, Finian, so he should be able to get that car back out on track.
Yeah, that car is, I think, it's a much better seat. Just needs to fix the nose. I think the really big concern for Hackthorn is the engine damage to that car, and hope that there's not a whole lot of it, because that's really going to hurt your performance.
Tanner Sharp is back out on track, and hood crinkled up quite a bit, but all things considered, I mean, that's pretty light damage for the hit that he took. But looking back up towards... Oh, was there a little bit of a disagreement there for a moment?
Can't imagine there is not, because, I mean, Sharp was having a really good day, looking like he could put himself in the playoffs, at least have the chance of it, and Door, unfortunately, the contact is going to take the 3 out of that.
So let's kind of, I guess we'll kind of sum up what we've seen so far. Kevin Finn is very fast, we've seen that. He's been able to drive out into the distance, but the only other car that was really had comparable pace over the course of that run was the 3 car of Sharp before he had hit the wall. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I was on about.
Let's go back. We just see the 32 car spun under caution. Was there some payback here? Yes, there was.
Cool.
You sort of can't blame him. I mean, that's.
Yeah, no, mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Yeah, I don't have a big issue with that personally, but I'm sure that that'll be the end of the night for Tanner Sharp. Let's just say that. So disqualification.
Yep. He didn't even get disqualified. He just left the server. I think he knew it was coming.
The self-disqualification. Oh, some drama. Big crash. This has got all the makings of a great race already, and we're not even halfway through.
I was going to say, we're only on lap 37. There's a lot more to happen.
So, some big names out. Sorry to cut you off there, Freddie. Some big names that are out already. Tanner Sharp and Indelicato. Both those drivers, top 5 competitors this season. Indelicato especially, that's a big one. He was capable of winning this race, but now we got Finn, Velez, Eisman, Clark, and Hines are top 5.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say, too, the way we're going to get this restart, I imagine we're going to see a caution at some point. That being said, though, we're very close to making this only on one more stop. These guys are looking at being a few laps short of doing so by about 5 or so laps. So, I don't know. If we do go green to the end, hope you save enough.
Coming to the restart, lap number 39. 2 cautions so far. The first on lap 1, the next on lap number 34. Both for crash contact. Kevin Finn so far today has led 36 of our 38 laps. So we'll see if he can continue his dominance on this green flag run. Nathan Velez on his outside. Velez started this race back in 19th. Green flag back in the air, racing again from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Rewinding the exit of turn 2, Frank Sims right in the middle of it. The 06 is going to go around the outside. That's Jeffrey Fisher. Up the road, how about Brent Miller on the bottom of Corey Lindsay? Alex Boyd in the number 10 to get a roll the outside lane.
Yeah, not completely clear, so Boyd's going to still be...
Oh, the 5 car sideways on the front straightaway through the grass. And that's not going forward. That's not a pass in the grass. It's a loss in the grass. But he did a good job hanging on to it. Let's go back and take a look.
Yeah, from the look of it, as he's coming off turn 4 here onto the front straightaway, just ran a little bit too tight of a line here through the quad oval.
Just caught the grass.
Clip the grass and get loose.
Did a great job hanging on to it, though. That could have been an accident there. But we'll go back up. How about Frank Sims right in front of the 54, Matt Grunberg. Grunberg was involved in that lap 1 collision. Started all the way at the back, and that's kind of he puts himself in that situation there, Finney, when he starts out back, but he's managed to fight back from it.
Actually, look at that car. He actually was able to completely get the thing repaired. It looks pretty much as it rolled off the hull. You can see no damage to him on the left side, and on the right side looking very much the same. So, I'm curious if the car is driving like it is in peak condition, because it looks like it is starting to climb back through the field.
Yeah, he's doing a good job, and I think we come to expect that. Especially with these cars, you can pretty much repair them up to 100% perfection, which is sort of a letdown, because it doesn't really,
it makes no sense.
Yeah, as long as you get the car at least, set in the box for a couple minutes, you'll be all right.
Spare parts.
Yep. On the back straightaway, there's Alex Boyd in the number 10. He's getting swarmed by the 52 of Kolb on the bottom. The 09 of James Miller up top. Brew goes to 52. You see a big dent in the door. The frame sticking through the side skirt there. As he loses a few spots to Miller and Fisher.
Boyd dropping back pretty far, back in 13th at the moment after restarting up in 6th, so he's kind of slowly drifting on back through the field.
+180 miles an hour on the straightaways here at Charlotte. There's James Miller going up underneath Kolb. That's for 10th. Up front, though, Kevin Finn has continued to pull away 7/10 of a second lead over Drew Eisman in the 77. Then Velez, Hines, Clark, the rest of your top 5.
Yeah, let me just quickly read off the starting positions of your top 6. 5th, 6th, 19th, 20th, 9th, and 22nd.
Wow. That big wreck on the opening lap sort of mixed everybody up. Then the pit stops and subsequent wreck we just saw is kind of taking care of the rest of the drivers that started up front. There's Corey Lindsay. He's been sort of around this area, 6th to 15th all day so far. Works on the underside of Brent Miller on the front straightaway. He's alongside.
Yeah, gonna have a good run looking up the inside. Miller's gonna have to give him room going down into turn 1. Lindsay gonna just chuck it up the inside. Here comes Gruberg. Also gonna easily follow on through Miller, giving both those drivers room.
So now let's make it bet here, Finney. When does Grunberg get to the race lead? Because we're on lap number 45 now. Are we thinking like lap 90? Or are we thinking lap 110? What's your thought? When does the 54 taste the lead tonight?
I'm going to say lap 100. I honestly don't know. That's kind of my intuition. That was also the first number that came to my head. So lap 100 for me.
Okay, I'm going to say 120. I think he's going to kind of stall out when he gets to third.
I was expecting you to say lap 101 to the Price is Right.
Yeah. No, I never watched that show until I had some friends at school when we were waiting in the marketplace. And we would always watch that show, and it became an obsession of mine. I haven't sought it out on TV since then. But I did enjoy my Price is Right every day. It was a fun time. Back to
your cafeteria had a TV.
No, this is in the marketplace here.
Okay. There you see.
No, not in high school. There's James Miller in the 09. He's going to go through to 10th spot, back around Justin Kolb. Kolb back to 11th. Sam Close working his way back forward after being involved in that collision. Looks like he's got his car also repaired. And even with all that, he's still a net positive from where he started the race.
Pretty impressive, and I mean, this car is showing the pace. I mean, obviously the only reason he's back there is because of that mistake he had, but now trying to move himself back up. He looks to the inside of Justin Coe, 52 on that outside lane, and there you see we're going to potentially go 3 wide, or at least for Kobe, he's going to look to the inside of James Miller here.
Yeah, Frank Sims was a little slow through the center of 1 and 2, and that had James Miller right at the tailpipes of it. And Close is watching from afar as he has 3 drivers battling for 9th right in front of him.
Looking to the outside of that 52 of Cove, as everyone's just kind of trying to find out which lane is the fastest at the moment.
Oh, look at this crossover by the 5. He's going to cut down a corner exit, carry that speed, and he's going to have a run here at Justin Kolb into turn number 3. We'll see if the 09 of Miller does the same. He won't. But Close is going to get up alongside the 52. We'll see if Kolb can carry the speed now through the exit of 4.
Secure that spot, but with the run off of 4, there's Miller trying to look to the outside of Frank Simpson. Sims closes the door.
And he lost all that speed through the center of the corner, though pushed up the racetrack. Miller's going to drive by, so will Justin Kolb as well. And looks like Sam Close will also be able to follow. Whoa, big slide up the racetrack for the 09. Maybe a bit of a disagreement there on the space that was given, but Sims will go up the racetrack and down the racetrack with all the other drivers, and they'll move on through, putting Sims back to 12th, and Fisher wants a piece as well.
Yeah, Sims got pretty close to the wall off turn 4, but it's going to keep the car off the wall. But there you see Close go on through, and now for Fisher trying to do the same, but the 75 cuts him off 2.
Jumping back up to the race lead, Kevin Finn has had a dominant performance so far. He's led 50 laps of the first 51 that we've completed. Drew Eisenman back in second place, 1.7 back. Now we'll jump back to Kolb and Sam Close because they're side by side. This is now for 10th spot. Close leads at the line. Off into turn number 1. He should be able to complete this, and he will.
Make sure he clears them by turn 2 because the run off the corner is really good, and he is going to indeed clear. And same thing in behind. Jeffrey Fisher going to get clear of the 75 for 12th place.
Checking on the weather information here. 73 degrees in the air, 77. The track temp has actually come up slightly, which is interesting. I thought we'd see it drop, but the drivers are getting some heat into the racetrack. Not as much as I would have expected if I was expecting it to go up. But, ooh, that was Richard Hines. Let's talk about Richard Hines for a second here, Finn. And here he sits in 4th spot after starting in 20th tonight. And Hines, as I mentioned, has had a lot of good speed in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and again, this is really where he needs it because he's one of those drivers that's on the outside looking in. Or sorry, he's currently on the inside. He still gets to lock that championship spot, but looking more so likely that he's going to do so, especially with a strong performance like this.
Battle for second heating up here. Eisenman in the 77, the 48 of Nathan Velez. Nose to tail for second.
Velez is one of those drivers on the outside looking in, and he's running really solidly in the top 3, trying to make that even better, trying to get up into second place, but Eisenman is holding off. But you see him backing off in the corner, trying to prioritize the exit. Look at the run he gets off of turn 4.
To make this look easy, if he can carry that speed all the way to turn number 1, 183 miles an hour is VMAX for him into turn 1. And through he will go. We'll see if Eisenman can roll the outside lane and carry that outside speed. It looks like he will, just enough to stay alongside to have another run into turn number 3.
I got to see here, Velez can try to throw it down into turn 3 to get a better run and potentially clear the 77. It looks like he's going to be able to. Eisenman just can't get back on the gas in order to stay on that outside, so he'll drop back to 3rd, but don't wait too long because here comes Richard Hines in behind the 87. He's looking for that 3rd spot.
And Race Clark and Matt Gruenberg in the 54, 5th and 6th place drivers. They are coming as well. The white colored cars at the right side of your screen, they are approaching very quickly. 56 laps into this race. How many laps are we into the stint? 20 laps in, so we can go, as you mentioned, Finney, close to one more stop, so they're probably expecting to run this tank pretty much out of fuel.
Pretty much. I mean, again, saving 5 laps is a bit of an ask. They're looking to save, 2 to 3 laps per run at that point. It might be doable, but I mean, with the way they're running, it doesn't really look like they're saving a whole lot. So I don't know. They might have to, maybe plan on doing 2 stops and maybe try to equalize that out, or just like you were saying, just run the tanks out dry and just hope for the best.
Matt Gruenberg through to 5th, past Race Clark. And even with all that damage he gathered earlier, he's able to fix it. Now move his way inside the top 5 for the first time at lap number 57. Driving up underneath this back of the 77's rear bumper. Getting him a little bit arrow loose here. Now taking a run at him. All the way in the distance, you see, that is Kevin Phim.
Yeah, to his outside, here comes Race Clark as the 54 and the 22 battle side by side into turn 1 hole, held up by Eisenman.
I'm keeping an eye on this 22 car because we have not seen the outside lane be a good place to pass just yet. But Clark is really making the first legitimate attempt that we've seen at doing that. We'll see if he's successful. I don't think he will be. I'm not sure it's quite there yet. But it definitely seems like it's improving as now Gruenberg drops to the white line. He's going to go on by the 77 here in turn number 4.
Both pretty much neck and neck across the front straightaway here. Gruenberg looking like he might get the spot here easily into turn 1. Indeed he does. It also opens up the door for the 22. Race Car going to stick his nose to the inside.
So Eisenman going backwards. Is this consistent with what we've seen in this car? Because this car has taught me more than anything else that drivers that are hard on their tires are going to lose momentum and speed about halfway through the run. And we saw this, if you think all the way back to Texas, the first time that we ran this car in this league, I think it was way early in the calendar year. Eisenman was one of the drivers that was quick from the get-go, but then fell back later in the run. Seems like we're seeing a very similar thing here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the mile and a half tracks. You're looking at Vegas and Texas. At Vegas, he finished 17th, and at Texas, finished 22nd. So those have not particularly been his strong suit. And I mean, this is kind of looking similar. He had some good pace early in the run, but I think burned up his stuff because here he's just getting past driver after driver. As Brett Miller now has a look up his inside.
Yeah, he's going backwards very quickly. 7 laps away from 100 to go. So we're kind of cruising through the race now, kind of into the meat of the sandwich. 2 cautions so far at lap number 1 and lap number 34. So we see James Miller, pole sitter, involved in that big collision on lap 1. He's going to drop to the inside, work his way closer and closer to getting himself back inside the top 5. Meanwhile, Matt Grunberg, who started at the tail of the field, he is starting to eat into Richard Hines' pace now. And last time by, Grunberg was only 400ths off of Kevin Finn in pace. That time he was quicker.
That time he is quicker. It is going to take him a little bit of time to work back up to Kevin Finn. I think they're going to have to wait till we can get fresh tires back on. I'm sure Grunberg used up quite a bit to make some of these passes happen. Speaking of which, looking at Eisenman, still trying to hold off the 09 and the 89 as they're both. Whoa!
That was really close. They almost had a touch there. And these cars are tuned to corner left, and it's very easy to miscalculate it. He's so tight. Way up the racetrack, he will push through. Comes Miller in the 89 at the bottom. And Eisman is struggling big time.
Really is. As Miller tries to get back on past him, it's going to put Eisman back all the way to 8th. Ooh, battle for a second also starting to brew as Richard Hines, great run for him, trying to move up into second place, catching Nathan Velez.
Velez has been a little bit off the pace. The 31.7 for him last time by. Richard Hines in the 87, a 31.6. He has a look to the inside of the 48. I'm not sure that Velez is going to fight this.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he is. He's giving the 87 the room here, and he's going to take a very wide line through the corner. I think he might be planning on letting Grunberg on by as well and just kind of running at his own pace and avoiding confrontation here. So Richard Hines is going to get on by, and so is Grunberg.
And so Grunberg now to the inside of the 87, and I want to take a look at the 54's lap times in comparison to the race leader. Grunberg was only 80 thousandths off of Kevin Finn's time the last time through. This time through, it might be a little bit more because he was in the middle of traffic. But continues to run pretty solid laps. That time was off by about a 10th and a half, but he's in the middle of traffic. I want to keep this up. As soon as he gets clear of the 87, we'll come back to this and see the pace that the 54 is running relative to Finn, because Finn has just been absolutely dominant tonight. And to bring one of the best drivers in the series up to his rear bumper, it'll really test him. There's Finn by 5 seconds, and a three-way battle for second, way behind him.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the points here and cross-referencing where everyone's running. So for the drivers that are on the bubble, that being Richard Hines, James Miller, Drew Eisman, Race Clark, Goodman, and Velez. We got Richard Hines and Velez running 3rd and 4th, Clark in 5th, James Miller in 6th. So there's a bunch of those drivers right there. Eisman drifting slowly back on at 9th, and that's a little bit dangerous for him. And then Goodman all the way back in 17th, so he's not having a particularly good night.
So Velez working back to try to get around Richard Hines. We have 100 laps to go next time by. It's race leader Kevin Finn by right now 5.2 seconds. Now, let's pop up the comparison here. On the left is Matt Grunberg, a 31.8 last time by, a 31.73 for Kevin Finn. 93 thousandth delta between their times. This time through, we'll see if that goes negative and see if Grunberg is actually catching the leader.
It doesn't seem like that was the case. The gap expanded a little bit, it seems, as Grunberg was trying to get past. But now that he's finally up in some clean air, let's see, it was faster that time through by about a 10th.
Yeah, 94 thousandths of a second will bring Grunberg in a little bit closer. And again, this is just such an interesting thing to watch to see if this will continue to grow now that Grunberg's got some clean air to work with. He has not had clean air all race long. He's been behind traffic. So now that he can focus on his own racing line, I'm sure that's going to bring him even more pace here. Gap now is 5 seconds flat. He had a lift in turn 4. That's going to cost him in time.
Here's it comes as Grunberg comes back across the line.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as big of a gain, but he definitely is consistently gaining. As Sam Close and Brent Miller side by side into 1, move close to 7th as Race Clark and Velez run door to door and put Clark up to 4th.
Clark has been on the move, and here comes James Miller. He's opened up the door for Velez now, and Velez is going to easily drop back. And the 48 of Velez has been very patient, just letting guys on by, just focusing on his own run. As they say that, though, tries to look back up the inside of Miller, but not going to be enough.
Pretty solidly into this run now. Let's talk about fuel strategy again. It's been a while since we've discussed what the situation is. If you're running by yourself and like the 14 car is, you're not able to really save any fuel. Is it going to be close to the point where they have to save, or is it going to be close to the point where they can make it, they just can't make it for a green-white checker?
I mean, again, my exact number was about 62 laps. You know, you can go either way. You can go 60 to 65. That's a decent range for most of these guys. If you can make it 65 laps, you're looking to make it to the end of the race. Again, if you can reach that number, though, that's going to be the big kind of question mark. If these guys are able to reach it, if they've been, you know, saving enough, or just, you know, the more off throttle time with the tires wearing out, that's going to be helping their fuel saving here. I'm curious to see how many guys are going to not bother stretching it and just come in, and how many guys are going to try to attempt to go for it to potentially get the win. Because if you can save the gas, it's going to definitely give you a really good, solid track position for the second run.
Well, Drew Eisenman was as high as, I believe, second or third in this run. And here he is back to 12th right now. Really struggling way more than everybody else. His lap times are far, far off from the rest of the field. This is worrying because we're going to have long green flag runs. It's a long race. I don't think Eisenman's going to be able to have enough short run pace to make up for burning off the equipment. So he's in trouble. I think he needs a lot of cautions and some short runs to really salvage this night.
Looking at their James Miller race car and Richard Hines about to duke it out for third place. Richard Hines was a great pace a little bit earlier on, and it looks like he might have burned the stuff a little bit too early, as he's going to let on by Clark and Miller without much of a fight.
In the background, you see Velez and Sam Close trading spots. That would be for 6th. So Close continues his drive forward after the issue that he had involved in that second caution. Race lead has now fallen to 4.7 seconds. If you're Kevin Finn, you now see on the relative box that Grunberg is closing in. How does this adjust your strategy? Do you make this a two-stopper here? Do you utilize the fresh tires to try to run away from Grunberg? Or are you going to stick to your guns here and just hope that he can't run you down in this time?
I would think if I'm in Kevin Finn's position, if I can make it, if he can reach the numbers, or at least, with a little bit of fuel saving, if he can get those numbers, I would definitely go for trying to cut out a pit stop. I mean, obviously, we don't know what Grunberg's doing, but I imagine that he's not doing any fuel saving trying to catch back up, or he could be. That's the thing you have to gauge the driver. You need to do your own strategy, but what is everyone else doing? And I think you might need to keep an eye on the timesheet, as Grunberg actually goes a little bit slower that last lap through.
Yeah, taking a look, that lap was 56 thousandths the wrong direction for Grunberg, so lost a little bit of time to Kevin Finn. Now, I'm not really expecting any more cautions. I think if we might get one late race, but I'm not expecting one to kind of break up any of this racing at the moment. So I would definitely plan for long green flag runs and make your strategy as such. So if I'm Kevin Finn, I'm going to run the tank out of fuel. If I'm Matt Grunberg, I'm going to do the same. And if I'm Grunberg, if I can go a lap longer than Kevin Finn because I was following cars and saving some fuel, I would do that. And maybe a bit of an overcut in a race this long wouldn't be a bad idea.
You definitely won't. I do think with the fresher tires, I think Grunberg is going to have a much better chance of catching back up to Kevin Finn. I do feel like he might have burned up his stuff a little bit more than the 14, because the 14's been clean air the entire time.
Well, they definitely are equalizing out that time through. Grunberg was still slower, so the lap times have fallen off for the 54. They've stayed slightly more constant for Kevin Finn's 14. Again, he has led all but one lap of this race today.
And also closing up on halfway as well within a few laps' time.
Justin Kolb, Brent Miller, side by side. This is for 9th on the racetrack. Kolb started his night in 14th. Ooh. Brent Miller in 23rd.
Here's someone on the clutch, and his name is James Miller.
Really?
He was just, he was clutching it through 3 and 4. I'm trying to ride on board here if he does it again through 1 and 2. I didn't do it that time. I swear I'm not crazy.
Well, let's ride on board here. We'll see if he does it again. You're crazy.
I just went back and listened to what he did. It seems like he did it for 1 corner. I'm not sure if he was testing out maybe to see if
again, he's got pace right now. It's equal to or better than the race leaders. So I think this is a good time to experiment to see what you can save. But it's so difficult. These cars are so reliant on momentum that on a track this large, I'm not really sure that you can save anything significant without giving up time that would be equal to just coming down for another stop.
Yeah, that's really the big thing when you look at trying to save fuel or is it worth giving up so much time? Because there's a crossover point with you. You can't give up too much time saving fuel, because then you're going to get passed by the guys that took the extra stops. So, very fine balance, and for these drivers, it's a matter of just finding it if that balance is worth it.
Richard Hines in the 87. He goes high in turns 1 and 2. Underneath him goes Sam Close. He's officially back inside the top 5 after his lap 34 collision. And another Butter car driving forward very quickly, and lap times in the low 32s, which are pretty much equal with the drivers ahead of him. I don't think he's going to be able to close in very much on these guys, but you see Race Clark and James Miller. This is for third, and Miller, even with him maybe attempting to save some fuel, is still willing to try to chase down Race Clark.
See if we can get by the 44 of Goodman, who's currently a lap down. Miller's starting to get a little bit tight off in turn 2, it seems.
So about 45 minutes left in this race. If we have one more pit stop, it's going to be, about, 20-something laps from now. If we have 2 pit stops, I would have expected to already see people come down. So I think everyone's going to commit to the one-stop strategy. Or they'll have an emergency pit stop and have to do a splash and dash. It doesn't seem like people ever really consider that as a strategy, Finian. It used to be a pretty commonplace to try to make it to the end and then just do a splash and dash if you need it. But it seems like now, if you're going to come, you're going to take tires. So it seems like that whole pit just for a gallon or 2 of fuel, that seems out the window. Yeah,
because I mean, it is more optimal to even out the stints and take advantage of the fresher tires, because you're already making your trip down a pit road. It is going to cost you some extra time to slap some fresh tires on the car, but it is worth it on track time, because these guys are currently running about a second and a half off their best lap, which again, when you add that up over time, is going to mean quite a bit.
So for third place, Miller goes around the outside of Race Clark, and it looks like he will be able to complete this pass and drop in front of the 22. Checking in the race leader, there's Kevin Finn. His last lap was a 32.08. This time through a 32.068. Matt Grunberg is just chipping away. That time was about 2/10 off, though, so he will lose some ground.
Yeah, and also this time I will be halfway through this race here at Charlotte. Surprisingly, only 2 cautions. I was actually expecting to see a lot more.
Yeah, I think when we saw the crash in lap 1, I think that kind of saved us from some more cautions, because it took out a couple cars in this field, and the less cars you have, the less prone you are to have cautions. You see a big wiggle for the 52 out of turn number 2. And through goes Jeffrey Fisher and Nathan Velez, and add Brent Miller to the list. We've seen only 2 yellows in 85 laps worth of racing. I think my bold prediction is that we don't see any more the rest of the race.
Yeah, honestly, I can kind of agree with that. There might be a chance we do see a caution with guys if guys start coming in early for their pit stops. The difference in pace, but other than that, I think we should be looking good for the most part, especially considering we're getting to the end of the stint. And for the most part, it looks like guys aren't wrecking loose or tight.
There's Dustin Dewar in the 32. Remember back in the lap 34 caution, the reason why we had that yellow was from contact between the 32 and, was it 3 car of Tanner Sharp that he got into and basically turned him head on into the outside wall at the exit of 4, and Sharp came back and had a little bit of retaliation while the caution flag was out, but it was one transaction one way and one transaction the other, but Dustin Dewar is still going to come out on top of that discussion. He sits 12th right now, and Tanner Sharp is out of the race down in 20th.
Yeah, you can still see the remnant of the retaliation damage from the 3 to that right front here when the car turns right there. You can see right there was a little bit of a gift from Tanner Sharp.
Yeah, that's actually fairly significant damage as well. That's going to be hurting the aerodynamics. I'm surprised we haven't seen him try to fix the rest of it yet, but alas, he sits 12th, just outside the top 10.
Yeah, he did come down immediately after he got the damage, but I think the problem was that they were immediately got 1 to green that time, so he wasn't able to fix a whole lot of it. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a caution to allow him to fix the rest of it, so I'm sure he's kind of hoping for a caution to kind of get himself more on equal footing with everyone else.
Race leader Kevin Finn, his lead is now underneath 4 seconds for the first time since a few laps after that restart. Grunberg still chipping away, and it looked like he had lost some pace, but he has discovered something. Now slowly stalking the race leader.
Yeah, he started making some solid inroads. That last lap through was a hit faster, and come back across the line again here. Kevin Finn is going to run, let's see, a 32.235, and for Grunberg across the line for him, 32.254.
slight loss that time, actually. But it hasn't been consistent. It's been, he loses a couple hundredths here, but then he gains back a 2 or 3 tenths there.
It's been a general trend in favor of Grunberg. He has been slowly closing in on Kevin Finn. And my prediction's coming up soon, and if I wanted to be right, I need Grunberg to pick up a lot of pace in the next 10 laps.
Bryce Clark working back by the inside of James Miller. Curious to see if Miller has decided to save fuel or not. We have 77 laps to go next time by. That puts us about 15 laps outside our fuel window.
Yeah, he did it again in 3 or 4.
Okay, we're going back to watch this because I don't believe you. Let's go back and see if we can pick up into turn 3. Oh, yeah.
I'm not crazy.
And definitely a big lift. So he's trying, and this is the only person that we've really paid attention to doing it, but he's the only person that seems to be doing it at the moment. Meanwhile, behind him, Sam Close, there's a 74 of Nick Boyd, who is 3 laps down, was one of the drivers that was heavily involved in that early collision on lap number 1. Trying to scrape something out of this night as Clark and Miller run side by side, and that'll be a little bit frustrating for Clark to have the 09 still kind of dogging him even with saving fuel.
Yeah, and he's still doing it right now. He did it through 1 and 2 as well, so he's doing it a lot more consistently now. And again, the important thing too is that he's still keeping up with Bryce Clark. In fact, he's actually coasting on past him.
Wow.
When he was trying to work around the outside.
3.8 seconds is the gap, and Grunberg continues to track down Finn, but take a look at the stint here, Finn. We're within 10 laps of having to make a pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the big thing is no matter when these guys are going to come on down, it's going to be very important whether or not you can make it to the end or not. Depending on how much gas you're going to really have left. And this is going to be a decent indicator of how far these guys are going to be able to go on the second run.
There's Brent Miller in the 89 car. He's got Nathan Velez right behind him. This is for 9th place. Miller started tail of the field, dead last 23rd. Sits inside the top 10 past the halfway point.
Yeah, it was amazing considering we saw Velez running in the top 3 at one point. He's drifted all the way back through the field back to 10th. And even for Richard Hines, he drifted a little bit further back. Not as much, though, as Drew Eisenman drifted all the way back to 13th after, if I'm not mistaken, restarting 2nd.
Yeah, he was up inside 2nd place and dropped all the way out, almost outside the top 15 at this point. And he's way off the pace now, about a second a lap. And actually pretty close to going a lap down if he continues at this pace. I think he'll be able to stay on the lead lap as soon as he comes to pit road, as will the others, but not looking good for him. Jeffrey Fisher, Richard Hines, they trade spots for 7th. Hines maybe trying an over-under here.
Yeah, not quite enough of a run off of turn 2 to really make it work, but Fisher trying to keep the 87 in behind him.
Across the start-finish line, a complete lap number 94, as 3.6 seconds to note the difference between the front 2. And taking a look at the lap times again, Grunberg still chipping away just ever so slightly. There's Clark and Miller. These two have been tit for tat this entire run, Finney, and they're running nose to tail, and it's Miller purposely running behind the 22 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he is. If you want to save gas, not really just necessarily riding behind, but you obviously don't want to be hitting the clutch with a guy behind you that's going in full send into the corner. So I think he's just kind of riding in behind Clark, saving a little bit of gas where he can. And just trying to keep up with pace, because I think he knows that effectively he's going to be battling this 22 car, if anything, out of the pits.
Big battle here. Brent Miller in the 89 going to go way wide in turns 1 and 2. Here comes up the inside Justin Cole, but now add Velez and Dewar to this mix.
This is where it really gets chaotic with these drivers now as pit stops approaching. Whoa, Velez is going to get really close to the 89 and Miller down into the corner. He's going to wash up the track, and here comes the 89.
Oh, wow, that was tight.
Also
that was
squeezing the car.
That was extraordinarily tight at the exit of 4. Dewar managed to get on by. Moves himself into 11th spot, now sets his sights on Velez. That's about as close as it gets without turning somebody around, but he did a good job. Here he comes again now on Velez.
You're going to try to have a peek back up the inside.
How frustrating is it to start 11th, run 100 laps, and still be 11th?
Yeah, it really is, especially considering he was running, well, granted, he actually would have been putting the back due to that UL for getting into the back of Dana Sharp, but yeah, it definitely is frustrating. In fact, that he's not made really any progress. So if he continues at the rate he's been climbing through, he's got some big space in that 32 machine, so he could work his way back up through the order, but it's going to take him a little bit of a while.
You know, generally, as long as I didn't start inside the top 10, I consider it a good race when I finish ahead of where I started. And Dewar now has moved himself into 9th, so 2 spots in 1 corner for him as Kolb drops back to 10th, Velez back to 11th, so trade those 2 around. And Finn has re-extended his lead. Grunberg was held up that time, 32.4. Loses him a couple tenths on the race leader. As we approach lap number 100, and we are just outside our pit window, but Michael Goodman has already made a pit stop, so he's not going to be good to the end.
Yeah, one of the few first drivers to come down on a pit road. No one else has made the trip just yet. Still waiting on guys to come down any lap now, and even if you come into the next 3, it's still looking relatively distant as far as making it to the end.
So let's have a look at our race leader here. And now, also, Finn has 4 seconds that he can use up if he wants to save a little bit of fuel here before the pit stop sequence. But have a look. He has been out on the racetrack for 64 laps. If he can make it, another 2 laps, he's good.
Remember, 2 or 3 of those will run under caution, so...
Oh, good point.
And those few laps, that's nitpicking, but those few laps are going to matter if you don't have enough.
And we will have an opportunity for a green light checker, I believe, just one.
Race Clark, one of the first of the leaders to come on down. The green flag pit stops are underway, and a few guys coming on down. A big mess of cars. There's Dustin Dewar, Richard Hines, Justin Kolb, and Miller.
Well, 5 cars all hit the box together. And that was 65 laps worth of fuel in those cars. Kevin Finn, he's going to be able to complete, it's like 66 that time through.
Oh, James Miller's got a piece of the wall off of turn 4.
In the 09 car trying to pick him up here back in 3rd. See how hard of a hit it was. This is off into turn 3 here, Finn, and we've seen drivers struggle with understeer here all day long. Just misses the corner, drifts up the racetrack. And how big of a hit was it? It wasn't as bad as it looked, I don't think, so he'll be able to continue. All right, race leader, Kevin Finn, hits pit lane. Will Grunberg follow? He will not, so Grunberg stays out. He can go another lap. That's good news for the 54 team.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm really curious in seeing who else decides to stay out, and again, really how long as well.
So Grunberg, I think, is good to the end now. I think as soon as he pits, he should be okay, because we're going to have, is that 64 to go, and he's gone 68 on this run, so even if he had used up half, you know, I think it's going to be good news for the 54. I even think that Finn should be all right.
Yeah,
is Grunberg out, though? Is Grunberg out? No, he's got fuel.
Oh, yeah, he's sputtering.
Oh, sputtering. Okay, so 68 laps worth of fuel, I think that was?
More or less, yeah, I would say with adjusting for the caution, that might be around 65, which is just about the amount of laps we have left to go.
Oh, boy.
So it's going to be pretty tight. You might need to do a little bit of saving.
I think for Finn, if you lift a couple of corners here and there, I think you should be good. For those that pit a few laps prior, that being Hines, Hagethorn, Dewar, and Kolb, I don't think that they can do it without having a much bigger saving strategy. But I don't think we're going to see anybody completely run out of fuel, but it's possible, I guess. Grunberg is in and out. His pit stop, 14.6 seconds as he rolls out. Where is the 14 car of Kevin Finn already through? So Finn will have a pretty sizable lead. It was 4 seconds before they came in. It's going to be about 6, maybe 7 by the time they sort this out now. Jeffrey Fisher, Corey Lindsay. Oh, so Fisher is on pit lane. Corey Lindsay almost misses pit lane. Just locks it down and gets in time. So that will turn the lead back over to Kevin Finn with just over 60 laps to go. So now it's a fuel strategy race.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I just double-checked the math on that. Yeah, Grunberg, with only counting the green flag laps, went 65. And again, I guess you can account the fact he burned a little bit under caution. So, you know, the bit he lost at the end, sputtering to pit road, might have been able to go. So pretty much about 65 laps on a tank. Just about enough. And again, Kevin Finn looking to be just 1 lap short of that. He's going to have to do a little bit of saving. There's going to be a problem considering Grunberg's going to be chasing him down now.
Corey Lindsay off of pit lane, 15.1 second stop. So now Matt Grunberg, he has 1 lap fresher tires, but a 7.3 second gap to make up. That's a tall order to run down Finn with about 60 laps to go. So I'm not, or excuse me, that's, is that wrong? 60. Is that right? 60, yeah. 60 plus 7 is 67.
Well, including the lap they're on.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure I'm doing the math right. So Grunberg, that time through, though, was 5,000ths quicker. It's going to have to be a whole lot more than that, though, if he wants to run down Finn. 7 seconds, that's a third of a lap, or about a quarter of a lap around here. So it's not a small difference that he has to make up, but he doesn't have that much time left, but he's going to have to get to work.
Yeah, he's really going to. And for Kevin Finn, you know, looking at it now, actually, he might be good.
I think he is good, because he only pit 1 lap before Grunberg, and the way that Grunberg pit, I think that he had a little bit extra when we did the math there. So I think it'll work out in his favor. The question is, can he hold off Grunberg just on raw pace alone? I don't think the tire difference is going to be enough to really make a difference. It's just going to come down to the driver.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it. It looks like Kevin Finn's going to have to do 64 laps on this one, which we know is possible. He might have to do, again, a little bit of saving, but for Grunberg, it's not going to be, I don't think, extreme. As we saw, really, Grunberg didn't have to save that much if he wasn't saving at all. So it's not going to be as bad as Grunberg has to do 63. So doable, but I'm just more curious to see if Grunberg's going to be able to just drive back up to Kevin Finn.
So I think with this kind of lull in the action here as drivers kind of get back up to speed, let's do a Sim TV sound surge. Let's crank up that volume. Back live here with lap number 114 of 167 underway, and Kevin Finn has been the dominant car all night long. He has led 110 of 114 laps we've completed today, but Matt Grunberg, Finian, he is reeling in Finn, but it's not by a significant amount.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting thing to watch, because you got to imagine, you know, one of these guys might be burning up, you know, again, not even talking about fuel, just their tires. One of them might be burning up their stuff a little bit more than the other, and wearing them out a little bit more. And the interesting thing is, you know, is Kevin Finn wearing out his stuff more? trying to keep up with pace with Grunberg, and is Grunberg going to catch him in the later part of the run? Or are they just going to pretty much be equal and Grunberg might not catch him?
It's been fairly consistent. The delta hasn't really been over a tenth. It's just been a couple hundredths here, a couple hundredths there. But it's been a slow, consistent climb for Grunberg, but it's just not going to be enough, I don't think, if he continues catching at this rate. So he's going to have to find something. I'm not positive that Finn is really stressing out the equipment, but we'll see. Check it a little bit later. Meanwhile, there is a good battle for fourth. That's Race Clark. And right behind him, it's James Miller. Matt Hagethorn is a couple seconds back in the red, white, and blue car in the back of your screen there. There's James Miller.
Yeah, we saw Miller have a little bit of contact with the wall off of turn 4 in the last run. Was able to definitely cost him some time. If anything else, is going to die to the inside of Race Clark. Clark going to let him on by.
And you can actually see there's some remnants of damage still left on this car. I don't think it's going to be very important, though. The quarter panel is relatively shaped okay, and most of the damage was sort of absorbed by the door. Where if you're going to hit something, that's probably the place to do it. Meanwhile, Matt Grunberg lost 4/10 the last 2 laps, so something got held up by some lap traffic, or just made a mistake, because he was about 6.4 back. Now he's back to 6.9.
Yeah, not entirely sure. I mean, he's got Eisman up ahead of him. I can imagine that's the only thing really slowing him down. Was there's some distance between them, so I'm not too sure. We'll see this time by if it's the same story.
Justin Kolb in the 52. Has Brent Miller right behind him. Hasn't been an amazing night for Justin Kolb. He started this race in 14th, hasn't really cracked the top 10 for very long, and this is a bit of a surprise because we've seen him have a lot of pace at points in the season, but tonight, really not his night.
Yeah, it really hasn't been, and I think he's still dealing with damage he got from the first track. Oh, actually, the car, oh no, he still has it on the door. But yeah, I think it was, yeah, there it is right there on the 52. But yeah, just kind of running midfield. Hasn't been the best of nights for him, and he's trying to hold off now Brett Miller in behind.
It's that panel poking through the side skirt there has got to be upsetting the Aero just a little bit, as we don't have any significant battles on the racetrack other than the one that you're watching right now between Miller and Kolb, as we now close it on 47 laps to go.
Look at the lead actually just tick back over 7 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Grunberg, but he definitely does not have the pace right now. I wonder if he is saving a bit. Maybe not fuel, but just tire.
Yeah, that's what I'm really wondering, because, obviously, the gap now is one thing, but the gap, I guess 50 laps, 40 laps down the road, is the tire we're going to be too much for Kevin Finn to maintain pace, and this is what Grunberg explained to his hands, maybe letting Kevin Finn burn up his stuff too much.
Dustin Dewar, he's been on offense and defense tonight, as he tries to hold these guys off for 9th. Bit of a wiggle there by the 52 right up against that white line.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful of that. Cooking that apron can easily upset the car if you're not paying attention, but Kolb is just going to bounce off of it and still remain ahead of the 89.
So where are we at with the race leaders, though? This is really the question that we're asking. Did Grunberg have the pace to run down Kevin Finn? It just looks like Kevin Finn has found another gear, because he is pulling away at more than the rate that Grunberg was catching him. He's actually extended lead back out to where it was right as they left pit lane. So Grunberg has essentially gone net zero nowhere since the pit stop.
Yeah, he's still losing a lot of time. He's dropped off 10th that last lap alone. I'm curious what's going on here. Is this Grunberg, pushing as hard as he can, or if he's saving something? Because I have a feeling he might not be pushing that hard.
Well, if he's saving something, he's only got 45 laps to use it. And you got to make up 7 seconds. The only thing I think he's hoping for is to get a caution flag, and then at that point you'd have to make the decision whether to stay out or to pit. And I think the unanimous decision is to pit. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. I don't quite understand that strategy, but he's going to give it a go, and we'll see what happens, I guess. Or he's just, or Kevin Finn's just faster. I guess we didn't really consider that option yet.
Yeah, I guess
we're trying to find all the ways that Kevin Finn is not faster than Matt Grunberg.
I mean, to be fair, Grunberg, he's been really fast in almost every series that he's been at 3 wide. So I mean, there's that. But yeah, no, I think we really
that was a roundabout way. We're like, there's no way it can't happen.
I mean, just look at the amount of laps Kevin Finn's led. I mean, that just really shows you he's been the dominant car of the race.
How about this? 120 laps.
20, yeah.
I don't think we've seen domination of this scale in 3 wide for a long time.
Yeah, I think he's led all but 5 laps this race.
That's pretty phenomenal. Meanwhile, Race Clark, whoa, Hagethorn going to run out the outside of turn number 2, get alongside on the back straight. Into turn number 3, Hagethorn on driver's right, Race Clark on driver's left. Hagethorn going to make that one look easy.
Oh, she wouldn't speak too soon. Gets really tight, gonna have to back off, and here comes Clark back on the inside. But Hagethorn gonna get a decent run down the straightaway. I think he set it a little bit too hard into 3, but he is trying to make that outside lane work, and we haven't seen too many passes on the outside. Most of them have been from the inside.
Now drag race to the center of 1 and 2, and I asked earlier if we'd see this outside groove come in, as you just mentioned, and I just did it, so the outside groove is there. I wonder if Grunberg can now maybe experiment. The problem is, if you're close on fuel like you're like the 14 of Kevin Finn, I don't think you can afford to experiment with the outside lane because that's a longer distance, and if it comes down to a couple tenths of a gallon of fuel, I'm not sure I want to run a couple miles more.
Nah, if I'm Kevin Finn, I don't change anything that he's doing, because right now he's pulling away, and as it stands, he's pulling away. I wouldn't change the thing that he's doing. Just keep on running your line. Don't bother experimenting, because that's how things go wrong, is when you try something different.
That's the most pessimistic worldview I've ever.
I'm just saying.
Whenever you try something new, things go wrong.
It's happened to me a lot of times in stock.
I can tell.
I'll just try a line, and then I end up pancaking the wall. So
I think this is some deep-held childhood thing from your mom feeding you broccoli, and you're like, oh, new thing, and then you're like, nope. All right, closing in the last 30-ish laps, 40 laps to go. Last time by. And Kevin Finn's lead is stabilized at 7.5 seconds. What a drive this would be. I mean, it's rare. And this is not something we see in very many series. Even in recent months, we've had outsiders and fuel have some pretty dominant performances, but this would certainly rank right up with the best of them.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to take a look at the amount of laps led Kevin Finn did. So here's an interesting little fact. The amount of laps before tonight that Kevin Finn has led, guess the number.
1.
No, it's a little bit higher than that. He's led 43 laps, but I mean, he's led what he's gonna by now lead 3 times that amount, and then some by the time the checker flag comes out, if this remains.
That's pretty phenomenal. So as we work over, there's Matt Hagethorn back here in the 84. Race Clark has dropped off pace. Pretty good night for Race Clark in the 22 as well, Finian.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, is one of those drivers on the bubble in points. And with this is gonna, he was only 1 point ahead of Goodman, who was in 11th, and Goodman was trying to race his way in. And then same thing for Nathan Velez, who was 6 points behind Clark. He was trying to race his way in, so Clark just, with a solid performance, is gonna secure that spot as he's 2 spots ahead of Velez. So just doing what he needs to get done.
Home track night for Race Clark as well, as we jump back up to the race lead. And you mentioned the stat a little while ago, Finian, 43 laps led this entire season, and tonight alone, 126, making 127 as he comes on through. So a really, really good night for the 14 of Finn. Jumping back in the field a little bit, Jeffrey Fisher, a driver we haven't really talked about a whole lot yet tonight in the number 10 car. He started his race in 18th and has had just a mediocre evening.
Yeah, it really hasn't been too terribly good. I mean, he's had some really solid performances in the past, so this just not up to snuff, running pretty much midfield. I mean, looking at his last 4 finishes, finished 3rd, 7th, 9th, and 5th, so worse than all that, but a decent run, but as you said, pretty much mediocre for the 06. Also looking at, you see the 74 down on pit road.
4 tires and fuel for the super cheap auto Toyota Camry, you were saying?
I was saying biggest mover of the race, looking at it, is still Richard Hines in the 87. Was up a little bit further in the top 3, currently running in 7th after starting the night in 20th. So really solid job done by Richard Hines. And looking at it, I don't think he's on pace to catch up to Race Clark ahead in 6th, but just running his own pace in 7th.
Plus 13 for the 87 car here this evening. And again, I noted this, that in recent weeks, the 87 has found some more pace in this car and running top 10. That's going to be huge, the confidence levels that it gives you, Finney, to go into a night feeling like you're going to perform well. That's got to help. And I think there's some drivers that get themselves into a rut. If you're thinking about outside of Racing League, think Tim Downey Jr., think Martin Sproul. They have a poor season, and it just seems like nothing can go their way. And it's hard to get your spirits up, but for Richard Hines, this has got to be a really solid direction for him to be moving in, not only tonight, but this season in general. Quieted down out there. Not a lot of battles going on at the moment, but Kevin Finn's lead has literally stayed almost exactly the same since last time we checked in, 7.5 seconds.
It looked like it actually started to tip back in the scale of Gerber, and I thought, okay, this is going to be the time that he charges back up. But again, as you're saying, Kevin Finn went faster than Gerber, but last lap by almost a tenth. So he's not picked up pace. He's really starting to run out of time now as we're approaching 30 laps to go. I don't think he's going to make it at this point back up to that 14.
No, it would take an almost superhuman effort to make up that time on raw pace alone. The other question we could have is, will we get a caution? But taking a look down from the top of the racetrack, the field is pretty much spread around this entire 1.5 mile facility with very few exceptions, so I don't really see that as a legitimate possibility unless someone makes a huge mistake.
Yeah, the biggest separation, I mean, the closest battle currently is between actually Nathan Velez catching up to Richard Hines. Other than that, guys are separated by about a second apiece at minimum. See, I was right on board with Velez trying to track on down the 87 car at quite a significant rate. Hines going to go up high and going to easily just let the 48 on by. Velez up in 7th.
Not sure if that was on purpose or not, but it almost looked like it because he missed the corner by a country mile. He hasn't really done that a whole lot tonight, so he'll move out of the way and let the 48 car through into 7th. Dustin Kolb in the 52, Dustin Dewar in the 32. This is for 10th. Dewar has had an okay night, but again, that early collision that he was involved in that took out the 3-car Tanner Sharp. Some big damage on the nose of that car, but still running just outside the top 10. And I'm sure he'd want more, but I guess all things considered, it could have ended with that crash. He could have involved himself in it, and he didn't. So he'll walk away with at least something to hold tonight.
Catching up to just go great run out of the corner. Going to have a look down below the 52. So going to give him the line into turn 1.
So move him inside the top 10. So just like that, that's how quickly things change. As we now work our way towards the final 30 laps of this event, about 15 minutes worth of racing to go. Now the shift of focus comes to the fuel stint for Kevin Finn. 36 laps. We've got 30, what do we got? 28, 29, 27 to go? 28 to go? It's a lot of laps.
Yeah, that adds up again. It was projected to looking at 64 laps that Kevin Finn would have to complete. And again, Grunberg, for reference, completed 65 laps under green flag conditions on the last run. So, possible.
Oh, Justin Kolb way up the racetrack in 3 and 4. A touch there with the 89. That was about as close to a caution as I think we were going to get. That was a tense moment. Let's go back and have a look here.
I think to go off into the corner, I think Kolb thought he would clear himself in behind the 89, and
Miller drifts up just a little bit. Back again, we'll look from a different angle here. You can see he's right against that white line and then drifts up about a half a car width, and that's all it took to get into the side of the 52 and push him up the hill. But Kolb really struggling now. He's way off the pace. Having the same sort of struggles that Drew Eisenman had earlier in the earlier run. He's now a lap down. The first car 1 lap down. He would love a caution. He's got short run pace and a lap he could get back. I think that's about the only thing that would save his night.
yeah, it really is, and it's been quite a surprise. I was expecting him to do a little bit better, but yeah, it's not been a good day for Eisenman a lap down.
Here's Matt Hackathorn in 4th place in the number 84, and right behind him, James Miller in the 09, the pole sitter. First lap, went down to turn number 3 and took out race leader Nick Indelicato, spun him around. That has moved James Miller. He went back in the pack to repair some damage and has clawed his way back forward, but hasn't been able to get back to the front. You look at this race as a whole, Finian. You look at how fast James Miller has been on these tracks and how fast he was in qualifying. That was a big mistake, I think, and that cost him a chance at a race win.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, if you go back on board with James Miller, back on the clutch.
Certainly is. I'm curious if he's doing it at both ends of the racetrack or just turns 3 and 4. Now remember, he was one of the drivers that pitted before the race leader, so he certainly doesn't have quite as much fuel, and he needs to save.
Yeah, he's saying that he's on the same amount of laps as Kevin Finn.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, so I think he feels that he's not saving enough or needs to save more.
Well, how much trust are you putting in iRacing's calculations? As we all know, not the most accurate number.
Yeah. Yeah, it really depends. Kevin Finn, he could be running, his own fuel calculator. There's a bunch of software out there. Crugy gives you numbers. I'm using Race Lab apps. That also gives you numbers as well to work with. So he could be referencing off of that. And those are pretty accurate, and you can get a pretty good gist of where you're standing. iRacing is, as you're saying, a little bit fuzzy. It's kind of hard to tell. You can only really guess at some points.
Matt Grunberg also seems like he's lifting quite a bit, not clutching in, but maybe the fuel saving is happening. And Kevin Finn is not really running any faster, though, so I can't imagine he wouldn't be saving if he thinks he needs to. The only thing I could see happening is if Finn is burning up fuel and he doesn't realize it, but that would be a huge oversight if he wasn't at least checking frequently his situation.
Yeah, that would be I was just saying that would be a really big surprise if you're the leader and you have a really good shot of, if you just save a little bit more gas, you can potentially make it. If he's not, that would be surprising because I'm just going to pretty much put all of his work to naught after putting a really good pace. And he's got also a lot of time to play with. He's got almost 8 seconds of a gap between himself and Grunberg to try to save some sort of gas.
Race Clark just pulled over and let Nathan Velez on by. Either that or he got loose out of turn 2. So let's go back and have a quick look here at what happened with Race Clark. Looks like he just lifted and let the 48 go. A lot of courtesy out there tonight once we got through a couple accidents at the beginning of the night. Well, then Kevin Finn crosses the line, 21 laps to go, 11 minutes worth of racing to go. Now, this is when you start holding your breath. If you're a Kevin Finn inside this car, you're praying that you don't get a caution flag. Big lift there. Let's ride on board.
Yeah, this could be him trying to save some gas here instead of just going on to the clutch. Big lift to the corner.
There's the clutch.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so he's trying to save.
Now, the question is it going to be enough? I don't think he needs to save that much. I don't think it needs to be a lot.
I agree, too, because I don't think Grunberg was saving that much gas in the last run. So I wouldn't think that Kevin Finn would have to save that much. And just enough again. It has a gap to play with, so it can afford to save some gas.
Well, that gap, he's been saving the last couple laps, and he has been slightly slower, but the difference between those two drivers hasn't been enormous. That time was a much bigger lift off and clutch in. 20 laps to go, make it 19 this time by.
Yeah, in the last lap there, he was only losing a 10th back to Grunberg. This time by, we'll see. Right at 32.3, so he's really starting to drop off here. As for Grunberg, as he comes back across the line, I don't think he's saving. Ran about a little more than a 10th faster, so Finn can actually still afford to give up some time, and that's what really this gap gives you. It gives you a lot of room to play around to try to, again, get to your number that you need to hit.
So remember that Grunberg actually pit a lap after Kevin, a lap before Kevin Finn? No, other way around.
A lap after.
A lap after. So in theory, Kevin Finn has to save slightly more. So if this was a more extreme situation, I'd want to be in Matt Grunberg's car and have the upper hand. I just don't feel like it's that significant of a difference. And I would much rather have the 7 seconds worth of track position instead.
Yeah, it's only a lap of fuel that he has to save, and again, can kind of play around with coasting, so and Grunberg's going to have to try to push, but again, I'm not sure how much more he can push in that car if he hasn't been already.
Dustin Dewar and Justin Cole. This is for 11th. Dewar lost some time, and Brent Miller had gotten around him in the 89, moved Miller up to inside the top 10. Cole now trying to drive back forward, but he is just well off the pace in comparison to the two drivers that are in front of him, both still running in the 31-second bracket.
Cope was by a few laps earlier ahead of the 32, but has not been able to get by. It seems like the 52 is also on the clutch.
I would have thought anybody that was 65 or better laps to go would have probably been in an okay spot, but we're not seeing that be quite the case. Finn has dropped off about a half a second of where he was before, so he's now more seriously saving. Closing all the way through the corners. Now, my thoughts on this, Finning, is if I was Kevin Finn, I would have been saving a lot longer ago. Only he knew what fuel he had and how far it could take him. But I don't like the strategy of saving all of it at the end of the run, because then you force yourself into a box. I would have saved all at the beginning of the run and then been able to go flat out to the end.
Yeah, it really does depend how much he needs to save. Again, only he knows. Everyone else is pretty much just guessing how much he's got left in the tank. He knows his true numbers and if he's going to be able to make it or not. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning that he's starting to take bigger and bigger lifts. That leaves some uncertainty. or that shows some uncertainty with the driver that they might not be sure if they can make it to the end. So we'll only be able to find out here in the next 7 minutes.
So what's the difference between the race leaders? Let's have a look here. As they come out of turn number 4 to 14 laps to go, there is your race leader, Kevin Finn, right now. Second place, Matt Grunberg comes across the line. Now, that's a lot of time. And again, Finn has this big lead, and now he's got a lot of time to save fuel. Again, I'm just concerned that if he runs out, it's going to be game over. I think he's able to run out into turn 3. Anything before that, I think the 54 will have enough time to get there.
Yeah, even Grunberg, he ran a really slow lap last time through at 32.6 to Kevin Finn's 32.2, and actually Finn's starting to pick the pace back up, back into the...
I think they're balancing right on the edge of what they think they can do. So that concerns me a little bit because I don't think they're sure. And I think it's, to me, it seems fairly well known that I don't think the oval guys play around with fuel calculators quite as much as the road community does. Because typically in stock car racing, you're fueling up all the way and taking all your time. It's a full pit stop almost every time. In road racing, it's much more common to come down and take a partial tank. So you tend to do a lot more of the fuel calculation. So I would be surprised if either Grunberg or Finn were running a calculator right now. I think they're just doing it off of their head calculations, which we all know is a very inaccurate measure, especially when you're trying to focus on winning the race.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to consider that too. You again, this is really where the best thing. Use that tools you have available to you, and if you can use a fuel calculator, it saves you a lot of mental stress. Because I would also try to just calculate numbers in my head. You also have to focus on driving the car. Speaking of which, Race Clark and Jeffrey Fisher battling it out. Fisher was able to get by the 22.
Well, you mentioned just driving the car. Well, in real life, you got a guy driving the car, and they might play into the strategy a little bit, but for the most part. You got a crew chief, a car chief, and a bunch of engineers.
People crunching the numbers for you.
Right, and now in iRacing, you're doing it all yourself. So to have that extra tool handy to do the math for you and to save you that effort, I don't know why people wouldn't do that. I say that.
Especially
I also
use a lot of free software as well.
Yeah, crew chief I know does it, and he does a pretty decent job of it as well. And it also kind of acts as another spotter. In addition to that. So 10 laps to go for Kevin Finn. His lead is now extended to 9.5 seconds. That worries me, though, because what does Matt Grunberg know that Kevin Finn does not?
Yeah, it is, again, considering the fact that if Grunberg's taking more fuel than Kevin Finn, remember, Grunberg could actually go an extra lap on gas than Kevin Finn. So that's also concerning for Kevin Finn, maybe. So, I don't know, maybe this is even just mind games at this point.
I think they're messing with us more than they're messing with each other. But 9 laps to go for Kevin Finn. Lead almost 10 seconds now. Taking a look, I haven't really seen anybody pit recently other than Michael Goodman 12 laps ago. We know Frank Sims is out there 61 laps into a run. He will have to come to pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that are, they're like guys like Sam Close, Hackathorn, they have to go a lap further than Kevin Finn. And I think they might have to come down to pit road. I'll be surprised if they're able to stay out.
Yeah.
If anything, they're going to be running on fumes coming to the flag.
Hines, Clark, Miller, Kolb, Dewar, Eisenman, all are a lap more on fuel than Kevin Finn or even Matt Grunberg. So those drivers are going to have to save a lot more. They've been about a half a second slower than our leaders, so maybe they are saving that fuel and can make it to the end, but it's going to be tight. Clark definitely running a slow lap that time through across the line, a 33.7, so he's backed off a full second and plus some, try to save some. Sam Close and Hackathorn, you mentioned it. Same strategy as Finn here, 58 laps on their tank. This is a battle for third. And racing each other is the last thing I would be doing if I had to save fuel, so maybe they feel a bit more confident.
Yeah, I would imagine. So actually, the correction to that now, they're still a lap behind, or they have.
Oh, right, you're correct. Yep, one more lap on fuel than a Kevin Finn,
which makes it even worse because they're battling. And again, I'd imagine maybe they feel confident, or maybe they're just planning on coming down, making a trip to pit road to get a splash of gas. So let's see here as this race is starting to wind down.
There's James Miller and Jeffrey Fisher as well, 6th and 7th. These drivers also having a bit of a fight.
Miller still also saving gas in his 09 machine.
And really the question becomes, has Finn saved enough? 5 laps to go this time by.
Hey, look at at the gap. It's over 10 seconds now, and still starting to expand. Frank Sims coming down the pit road, his 75 machine, one of the first takers down.
5 laps left for Kevin Finn. He has led 158 laps today. Remember before, stat that you pulled up, Finney, and 43 laps led in the entire 11 races prior to this event tonight. That's a big difference. Led 4 times the laps tonight that he has the entire season. It would be such a shame for him to run out of fuel. Look at him clutching it again. He's not safe.
Oh, man.
4 laps to go. I think he's 3.5 laps from safety. If you can get to the backstretch with an 11-second lead, I think you're good.
I'll have to see.
11 seconds is a long time. If you can get to turn 3 in the back straightaway area, I think you'll be all right. But if you start stumbling before that and lose some ground before then, that's not going to be a good time.
Yeah, it is. I am also curious just in general for the rest of the field, too, because, we talk about Finn and Grunberg being in a bad spot. A lot of them still have to go further than these guys.
All right, 3 laps to go. You heard another driver in the background behind that shot saving fuel with the clutch in. 3 to go for Kevin Finn. 11.3 seconds back to Matt Grunberg. Does Grunberg know something? Finn does not. He pitted a lap later than Kevin Finn, has a lot more fuel in the tank, but has saved more on this final run. 3 miles left for Kevin Finn as he comes out of turn number 4. And that 3 miles, Finian, he's going to have to use every ounce of fuel in that canister out back to get this thing back to the shed.
Yeah, now you stayed out. You're committed now. You're not coming in on the white flag lap. So you got what you got now, and I think for Finn, he's hoping he saved enough.
What happens, happens. 2 laps to go. Will he begin to stutter? And he knows by now. Now, when you get down this low, you know that your number's pretty accurate. So I think he knows if he's going to make it. No clutch this time.
I think, yeah, he feels confident in this.
12 seconds is the gap. It's basically half a lap. White flag for Kevin Finn. He has dominated the 12th round of the 2023 iRacing League Grand National Division. It has not even been close. He doesn't want to make it close. Saving fuel at the very end of the run, clutching in, trying to get this Ford Taurus back to victory lane down the backstretch.
Yeah, really, once he makes it into 3 and 4, he can gas up just a little bit mid-corner. He's pretty much got it.
I think he's got it. 13 seconds back. Grunberg won't get there. Checkered flag waving. Kevin Finn out of turn 4. He has led tonight 162 laps. He will come back and lead the 163rd, and he'll win at Charlotte in the fuel mileage victory. Matt Grunberg, 13 seconds back, comes out of turn number 4. He'll pick up second place. Matt Hagethorn, who was closing hard in the final couple laps, he comes home in 3rd. Sam closed 4th. Nathan Velez in 5th place in the 48. James Miller, Jeffrey Fisher, and more.
Yeah, Richard Hines is currently out of fuel through 3 and 4. He's trying to limp the car back home in 9th.
He's the last car on the lead lap, so it's not really going to make a difference here, but we'll see. Now, did Finn save enough to do a burnout celebration? He's made it all the way around.
Yeah, he's let the engine running now. It's kind of just idling. See how much he can get in here.
Race victory for him, and he's got enough for a burnout. Kevin Finn, winner from Charlotte. Stumbling now.
No, he actually got quite a bit, actually. Oh.
There it goes. Just enough for a couple donuts. And he'll celebrate in Charlotte Motor Speedway. What a drive by Kevin Finn. An absolutely dominant performance. Have a look at our race results here. Roll around to the next page here to bring up the race leader, Kevin Finn, winner tonight. And we need to have a look at the rest of the top 10. A disappointing night for James Miller. Probably could have won this race. Finn got tangled up on the opening lap. Put him back down in 6th. Brent Miller, top 10, as well as Richard Hines, a 9th place result. He ran out of fuel at the very end, but came home, brought it back inside the top 10.
Yeah, and even looking way down the order, in Nick and Delicato, he only completed 2 laps. That's really unfortunate for him. Back in 21st, and especially after starting up in the front row.
And Carlos Acosta also having that lap 1 incident as well, so that put him out of the running from the very get-go. So there's your race results. We'll be back in just a minute for driver interviews. Stay with us. Welcome back live to Sim TV in the Three-Wide Racing League Grand National Division. Here now with third place finisher Matt Hackathorn in the Competitive Edge Racing Fabrication number 84. Matt, tonight a pretty good race for you. You started the event back in 10th. That drama all happened behind you, or actually sort of in front of you on the opening lap, but you came back, battled back for a podium result. Walk us through your night.
I just right now I'm really wishing I didn't get caught up with the Sindur and Tanner Sharp wreck. I went from 17th and I called back to 3rd, so I mean I can't complain. But I felt like I might have been able to do something. I don't know how, but I was able to save more tires than everyone else and save gas. I don't even know. Everyone was super close and I had plenty left over. So all in all, a good night. I mean I can't complain. I liked it. It was a really fun race overall. That's probably the most intense I've been a whole entire iRace before. It was awesome. I loved it.
Long green flag run certainly kind of mixed up the fuel strategy there as well. For you, I know you were one of the drivers that had one less lap of fuel than Kevin Finn and Matt Grunberg. What was the strategy like there? Those last, the last pit stop, the strategy to pit early, or was it kind of necessitated by the run before, or were you trying to plan it out so you'd run out of fuel right at the end? What was going on there as you made that pit stop?
I was doing some redneck math in my head to kind of decide how far we had gone, and because I have not done any long run practice at all, the only practice I had was in the actual practice session before the event. So I was just trying to make it math, and I was like, if I just kind of sat on that lap, and about halfway through the run, when everyone else started falling back, I found something special at the bottom in 1 and 2, and it came in super handy at the end of the race. I was pulling about 2 to 3 tenths on everyone each corner. I wish I didn't get caught up in that wreck because I really, really, really feel like I had something for Kevin, and I could have definitely got past Matt with just 2 more laps. But you can't win them all, and especially not me. But I love fuel mileage races. They're also last race I really won here. I think it was a fuel mileage race. That wasn't a super speedway. So yeah. Thank you guys.
We were good on fuel to the end after that last pit stop. I didn't save it all. I think at some point I turned a little too hard and burned off the tires. Not really sure when, but then Kevin just started pulling away. So at that point, first was kind of out of the question. So I was just kind of riding around there for a while and just hoping that maybe Kevin would run out of fuel. But everybody made it to the end, so that didn't work out for us either. And then just trying to just stay ahead of Matt there at the end, and luckily we ran out of laps, and I was able to keep second. Didn't really feel all that fast tonight. Granted, we did get involved in that lap 1 wreck, but I did get all the damage repaired, so I'm not sure how much that affected it, but I didn't really feel too good tonight, but came home second, so we'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, just saving the tires tonight was the key. Yeah, I felt good early on. I felt like I could definitely compete for a win. But you had to save those tires all night long. And saving fuel at the end, I didn't think that was going to come down to fuel mileage, but 30 to go, I started to save fuel, and lucky enough to have some at the end. Man, I sure hope so. Going into, I don't even know where we are going into next week, but yeah, I feel like I can compete for a title and hopefully be there at the end of the year. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I don't really quite blame these guys for being too tired. We were agreeing from lap 39 onwards to the end, and it was just a matter of also, just like Kevin was saying, just managing the tires, making sure not to burn them off, and also making sure not to burn off too much gas. So a lot of managing, if anything, not physical stress, but mental stress for these drivers. And for Kevin Finn, I'm sure once he relaxes for a little bit, be able to really enjoy this victory.